Welcome to Strata. I'm Glenn.
And I'm Brandon. Welcome to the Minds on Muscle podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Minds on Muscle podcast. I am Brandon, and I'm here with...
My name is Glenn.
His name is Glenn, and today we are talking about no pain, no gain baloney. Drives me bonkers. If I hear someone else say this, I'm going to hit him in the face. End of the episode. No, I'm just kidding.
Thankfully, I think it's becoming less prevalent, but it's still way too much out there, especially on the Instagram. Sounds sexy, no pain, no gain.
Yeah, so I think we need to talk about a couple things here. So whomever you are, if you're someone who just loves exercising and you listen to this episode, or if you're a fitness professional and you hear this, I think this is a valid topic to explore both ways. For me, Glenn and I have both been doing this for over a decade, and there was definitely a lot of talking about no pain, no gain. If it doesn't hurt, you're not going to get the results. You have to bleed, hurt, have achy joints to get the amazing results. And I don't know where this came from. I think my hypothesis is really that it comes from sports land, and that to the damaged and the beat up come all the glory. And it's this kind of idea that if you're an athlete and you break your leg, but you still get that final point of the game and you get that last point with the broken leg, you're a hero. And so if you can really push through and make things happen, oh my gosh, you're going to get all the rewards.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think it might even extend beyond sports, just to the warrior, type A competitive mindset. Anybody who really values the idea of being number one is willing to sacrifice whatever they need to get to where they want to go. Sometimes that might be necessary, but there's trade-offs to everything. And the question is, do you want to make those trade-offs to get to where you want to go? Or is there a better way to get there? Or do you really even want that thing? Or is there really something else that's driving you and you think you want it, but it's not really what you want? What's a good example here? People who want to make a lot of money. Do you really want to make a lot of money, or do you want to find happiness and you are associating that with making a lot of money, right? Do you want happiness and you're associating that sensation, that feeling with having a lean, athletic looking body, when in reality, there's a lot of people that get there. I've been there in my shows. You've been there for your shows. I didn't feel great. I felt pretty not great, actually. The entire process was just stifling. And these are questions we got to ask ourselves when we're trying to get to this goal and we're going with this no pain, no gain attitude.
So if we kind of unpack this thing, right? No pain, no gain, right? When we're talking about gain, right? In most exercise contexts, we are talking about getting stronger, hypertrophy, potentially metabolic changes that lead to weight loss, faster metabolism, heart rate adaptations, right? All of the adaptations, our favorite thing to talk about, that come from resistance exercise. So that very soundbite to me is a big cultural problem soundbite, because it's still very common. Young athletes will hear this from their coaches. My generation, our generation will have heard this from their parents and coaches. I know my hockey coach when I was younger was like, no pain, no gain, shouting across the ice. And we would just keep grinding and keep pushing. And it doesn't work, right? Because no pain, no gain is basically saying if you don't hurt, you're not going to get the gains. Is that true?
No, it's not true. You don't need to hurt to get the gains. In fact, I would say if you're starting to hurt, you're probably going to make less gains, to be honest with you, at least in the long term.
There's definitely an idea in the decision-making world of risk-seeking behavior versus risk-averse behavior, that if you think about the stock market, like you said, if you got $100,000 and you invest $100,000 into this crazy risky stock, right? There's a couple of things that can happen. It could blow up in percentage and you could all of a sudden go from $100,000 to $1 million and you could be set for life, or you could lose it all. And I get the idea that, hey, if it doesn't hurt, if it's not terribly awful, if it's not the hardest thing you've ever done, you're not going to get somewhere. But if you think about the idea of boot camp, right? Why does the Army, why does the military put their athletes of all different level, their participants through a boot camp? Right? Boot camp in military land. Yeah.
It's because they're trying to weed out the weak ones.
Yeah.
You can't have weak people in a military where they all have to work together in order to get to a common goal. And the pinnacle of that is when you go through SEALs, right? As they call it, buds. They do everything to try to get you to tap out and stop. Literally no sleep for almost a week. You almost drown. Your feet, the skin's peeling off your body. That's because they don't want any weak people.
Yeah. No, of course. I even heard one time that the buds will put somebody literally into a barrel of water, and they're literally in the barrel up to here in water for like 2 days, and just keep them in the barrel. And they'll give them little bits of food and stuff like that, but just keep them healthy-ish. But they push them through. And that's the idea, right? They do these crazy boot camps to try and destroy people, to find out who has enough will, both physically and mentally, to push through to get to the other end.
Mm-hmm.
Question I would ask you if you're listening to this is your health journey worth pushing through, sitting in a jar of water for 2 days? Does it make sense to destroy your body, pushing through that insane CrossFit class, or doing a type of squat density training where you're doing as many sets as you can in 30 minutes? Does it make sense to have your knees and your back hurt to get to that end? And in reality, if you feel pain while you're exercising, you're not going to get gains. You're not going to get great gains at all. In fact, all you're going to do is you're going to gain pain. And so my mentor, Peter, used to always say, no pain equals no pain. right? No pain equals no pain. And that's the best way that we have to consider all of this stuff, is that if it hurts, you need to change something. Because what's pain all about, Glenn?
Well, I mean, pain at the end of the day is your body telling you something is not right here. And it's a summation of all the different signals and all the different information coming from all your joints and all your organs to your brain. And your brain's taking all that information and saying, okay, what's going on here? And it's saying, oh, there's something going on at this knee and I don't like it. And it could be any number of different things. We're not here to pick the one thing it could be, but it's just saying, hey, there's something not right here. And I got to bring this information from the subconscious to the conscious, so you know that you either have to do something or at least avoid doing stuff that's going to make this thing worse. Because at the end of the day, to your brain, if you can't move, you can't get food, you can't get water. Your brain is stuck in ancient times where if you couldn't get what you needed to survive, no bueno. You pass away. You're left behind. You're donezo.
Do not return to this thing, right? You feel discomfort in your body. You feel pain, right? That's exactly what Glenn's saying, is if you feel something doesn't feel good, your body does all sorts of things to make sure you don't feel pain. In fact, you stub your toe, this incredible sensation pops up that just feels terrible. Everyone knows that feeling. And then what do you do instantly after you feel that pain? You start limping. Why does your body start limping? Well, it reorchestrates tension to avoid that pain and create a new compensatory pattern, temporary and acute one, so you can move and not feel discomfort in that big toe. If you ignore that and you try to walk over that big toe that you just stubbed, what happens? It hurts. Is that going to speed things up? Is it going to make it better? Is it going to? No, what ends up happening is you keep poking those pain signals. Those pain signals become potentially more chronic. And then that's all of a sudden where you get to this place where a pain signal, a nociceptor, is constantly stimulated and is constantly reminded, hey, every time we feel this, we're going to feel this. And this is where when people feel pain, right? Toe stubbing is not a great example, but you're doing lots and lots of squats, cleans or jerks, deadlifts, lunges, and you feel your knee versus in the first set. And instead of modifying things, changing the resistance profile, modifying the range, whatever it is, and you keep pushing through that knee range where you feel pain, just like the skill of learning that movement, like Glenn and I have said, the skill of pain is a real thing. And if you keep grazing that pain signal over and over and over again, what happens when you excite the same cells over and over and over again? They become more saturated, easier, which means that you're going to feel pain sensations faster, which means that, bummer, dude, you're going to constantly be feeling discomfort in this area. And in fact, if you ever go to a medical pain clinic and if you even just look up the pain cycle, you'll see that there's this pattern interrupt in which they give you lidocaine and things like that to try to stop the pain signal from reaching your central nervous system so you don't feel that. Whether or not that's a fantastic option for you in the long run, they're trying to interrupt the signal. Great. The best way to make sure you're not having a signal interrupt there, you have to even consider that. Avoid feeling pain in the first place.
One of our colleagues, Jacques-Henri Taylor, has
Superstar.
a course. Yeah, what's the name of the course? I'm blanking.
Force in the nervous system.
Force in the nervous system. And in that course, he shares research and outlines how your emotions are actually coded as well with the activity that you're doing. So if you're constantly going to boot camp or constantly going to CrossFit and you've got this no pain, no gain mentality and your body hurts and it burns and you're pushing through it and you think at the time, oh, this is challenging, but this is what it takes. Your brain is going to learn to code intense movements and exercise and sport as something that has to be painful. and aggressive. And that carries on. So there's these chronic conditions that also carry on to our emotional states while we exercise as well.
Mel Davis, right? If you guys have heard the interview we did with Dr. Mel Davis, she did a great job of talking about this. And we were talking about like when you enter into a new environment, an exercise temple, right? For her, it's when she goes to do jujitsu or she goes into a gym. For us, when we go into a gym, when I go to play the drums, right? You enter into a new environment, you experience something tactile, the smell, the sensation, the look, and that makes you think of things differently. And when you start thinking about things differently, you enter that new mindset. There's a cascade of hormones that come with that experience, whether you love it or hate it. And if you have a connection to those hormonal cascades that turn into potentially some orchestration of your muscular system, this heightened acute of senses or pain, it depends on where you're entering. But this is where, actually, this is a great story. So Peter, the gentleman, I talk about him a lot, right? He's a mentor of mine. If you ever come to the gym, there's a photo of him downstairs. He was hilarious and one of the most amazing people I ever met in this world, right? A harborer of people. He was doing this session where he's working with people and he's doing kind of some similar stuff that Glenn and I do, right? Doing these qualitative assessments of motor control from one side to the other, just in a different iteration. And he was working with this gentleman and he got this gentleman feeling from one side to the other, rock solid. The guy felt better. The aches in his back were gone. His strength was really good. He was ready to do some exercise sessions. And it was 3 minutes before the end of his session. And his partner came around the corner and said, "When are you going to be done?" He jumped, said, just a couple of minutes. Peter went back and rechecked all those positions because they were at the end of the session, and that's what Peter used to do. And guess what happened? Low quality, low quality, low quality. The guy's back was aching again. Right now, that's not saying necessarily that someone's going to talk to you and stress you out, but clearly there was some sort of connection to the experience he had, either a fight or flight response in his nervous system from the information he heard auditorily and how he interpreted that turned into motor expression, which is insane. Leading off the point you were just saying, which was just one of the most pinnacle stories for me I've ever heard.
Yeah, and the body is so intimately interconnected that it's hard to get around the way our emotions are going to impact our physicality, right? And speaking of interconnectedness, we're talking about no pain, no gain mentality and going to these classes or doing your own workouts or stubbing your toe and having this pain and this discomfort and have it chronically be there. Right now, if you've got chronic pain, discomfort in a joint and your body doesn't like doing it, and you're still doing all your regular activities in life, what's your body got to do? Well, it's got to find a way to get these activities done. Same amount of force that you have to tolerate through your system, but with one less joint. And so your body has to compensate around that, right? It's almost like having a marionette, and you got a marionette that you're controlling, and there's 10 different strings. And each one of those strings, let's say the marionette is 10 pounds, well, each one carries a pound of force. Well, you cut 2 or 3 of those strings, what happens? There's now more load on the rest of those strings. They've increased, maybe not a lot to begin with, but it starts increasing, right? And now we're also talking about this marionette here. The control gets a little weird. You can't control this marionette so well. Unless you do something with that marionette, reattach those strings, or you repair it somehow, it's not going to go back to the way it was. And we see people in our practice all the time where they had one thing and we get their history and we can start parsing out, may have led to another thing and to another thing. And before you know it, if you've had an experience like this, you might stub your toe and your toe's achy, it doesn't really go away. Now your hip's a little bit achy and that doesn't really start going away. And your body's now playing the compensation game of how do I just keep this person moving? And it sucks because you need to give up the activities that you love doing. Your emotional state isn't as great as Brendan said. And how's that going to affect your quality of life? All because, but not all because, but partly because of this no pain, no gain mentality that you may have been sold by other exercise professionals or people in the fitness world.
There's another quote that's lateral to this one that I've heard a lot over the years. I haven't heard it the last few years as much, but it's pain is weakness leaving the body.
Oh, that one's icky.
Right?
That's
like
icky.
Pain is weakness leaving the body. I hate saying it like this, but if you were to go to a hospital, you go to one of the chronic care floors, there are a lot of people who would 100% disagree with you because there are many very strong, healthy people that experience pain on day to day, and saying something in some sort of motivational sense of pain is just weakness leaving the body. It just drives people to continue pushing and causing more discomfort on their body. In fact, if you've been listening to this episode for these podcasts for a while, you would have heard me tell my story about my back injury initially with my deadlifts. The part of the story that I don't tell often, because I'm usually in a different storytelling mode, is that I was training deadlifts a lot. I was doing it very consistently. I was following the rules. Just like I've said in all my stories, my lower back would constantly get tight. There were warning signs all along the way. Every day, I remember we would be driving to Fenland Falls to go to a cottage, and I'd feel my lower back tighten up, and I have to get out of the car and stretch my back out after an hour and 20-minute drive at 20 years old. I just thought that was normal. And reading all these quotes, even though I was a pretty knowledgeable guy at that time around exercise, I kept hearing pain is weakness leaving the body. If you want to get huge, you got to experience these discomforts. So what did I do? I kept pushing. I kept deadlifting 4 times a week. At 13 years ago, I was deadlifting more than I can now with less muscle, which already should tell you that there was something in that equation that was not working out well. And all those warning signs, because of the cultural experiences I had, told me I was doing something right. Guess what? I blew my back, right? You don't need to hear that story, part of the story again. And so this is the thing, is that discomfort and aches in our body, no matter the magnitude, small or large, all play a vital role in understanding what our body is currently going through. In fact, in our session experiences, Glenn and I will constantly hound people, it seems like. It's like, hey, how's that elbow feeling today? Remember that toe you felt 3 weeks ago? How's that doing? How's your knee feeling? Your body feeling 100%? And our clients, I don't know if you've had this experience. My clients will be like, oh, everything's fine. But in reality, any small sensation that is outside of the normal, not feeling any sensation of discomfort is something that we should inquire about, because all of which is the smallest warning sign telling us something's changed. And I think that's an amazing opportunity.
Absolutely. I think the thing I see the most with exercise professionals, being, a young one myself and being surrounded by them at a couple of different gyms, is not asking enough of those questions about how things feel. Or when people tell you they're fine, letting it slide, being like, okay, sure, it's fine, good, we can move forward. Rather than asking, and maybe this is redundant to what you said, but like, what does fine mean to you? Does fine mean feels a little bit worse than it usually does, but I can keep going? Does fine mean actually it feels good? Like feels fine good? What does fine mean? Anytime you get a one-word answer, I think as an exercise professional, you have to dig a little bit deeper, right? You have to be asking these questions. And because at the end of the day, and we see this all the time, buzzwords, and I still catch myself saying buzzwords, right? What is a buzzword? A buzzword is a word that is very particular to an industry or to a field of knowledge. And what ends up happening is it ends up getting used way too frequently, and the definition of it among the professionals or among the people using it gets dumbed down. It turns out meaning a whole bunch of different things, and it gets confusing for people. And no pain, no gain is absolutely a phrase or a buzzword which has different meanings to different people, although there seems to be a general consensus, but it can mean different things. And we talked about no pain, no gain in the context so far as being this negative thing, not being great. And for the most part, I would agree with that. But no pain, no gain to some people could also be recharacterized or reframed as something in the terms of the clients that we might work with, or you, if you're this kind of person who actually might be a little bit concerned about pushing it when you could be maybe going a little bit harder or doing a little bit more, right? We have something that we use called the PEC scale, right? And this PEC scale we use with our clients to determine how challenging a set's been. And sometimes a client might say, oh, right now I'm at a 4 out of 5, 5 being I couldn't possibly do another repetition. We're a complete failure. 0.5 being we've done a couple reps and there's really nothing there. Well, it's been my experience with some clients that they'll say I'm at a 4.5, I couldn't possibly go for any longer. We've been holding a position for 30 seconds and I might say, okay, let's go a little bit longer. Let's see what we can do. And then of doubling that. And they didn't even realize they had that in them. Their ability to sense what the physical discomfort of muscle contracting and the burn and just the endurance aspect, not the pain discomfort, but the endurance aspect, their ability to interpret that just wasn't that great just yet. And so I'm not saying no pain, no gain is something I would say to a client, but there is this conversation we need to have about what is pain in an exercise session. Is it the discomfort that you're feeling from muscle working and challenging it, or are you actually feeling some kind of throbbing discomfort, which is not good?
Why do people, when you give them a scale, like 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, like, okay, is this a 4 or 5? They go 4.5, right? I don't know what, as soon as you take a scale and you go 0.5, my clients do, I'm like, no. You got to give me a number. Is it a 7 or an 8? Or is it a 4 or a 5? Because instantly that scale of 5 becomes a scale of 10 again. Just like, anyway, I think I don't know. It's just a funny thing with my clients. I love, to be honest, I love pain. I don't love personally feeling pain. I don't love any of my clients feeling pain, but the message that you get from pain, I think is a very powerful thing. And the information that you get from it, how often someone gets it, and where those sensations are in correlation with data that you have inside their body. Like, do they have osteoarthritis? Do they have rheumatoid arthritis? Have they exercised strenuously the last few days? Have they hiked for a 3-hour time in which they never really hike and they're feeling discomfort in their posterior left glute? Like, I love all that stuff because all of it to me creates an incredible opportunity for data collection, reassessment, and figuring out the best way to move forward. I would argue that for myself, and I know for Glenn and most of the people here at Strata, is that we spend a lot of time trying to learn about our clients' discomforts and pains, because in reality, creating exercises that make changes to someone's how they move, their posture, their stability from one side, and in fact, so someone can move for their entire life. In my opinion, the exercise process for that, if you took away the personality and you took away the structural deficits, it's very simple. You modulate different profiles, you make sure you're calculating data, you're creating progression plans, you're choosing exercises and movement patterns that work pretty well for the individual. And if I didn't have a personality, if I didn't have money as a potential thing, if I didn't have pain in the way, we could make amazing changes to all of these people. But the thing is you do have people with preferences. You do have people who are experiencing discomforts. And the nice thing about those discomforts is they do create some barriers of conversation. For example, one of my clients was the owner of a very prolific yoga studio, and she's one of my favorite people. She's an amazing, very outgoing, very knowledgeable about her body, but as such, through her own workplace stresses, yoga, but regardless, workplace stresses, she started experiencing discomfort in the front side of her right hip. Over and over and over again. And by the time I started working with her, that right hip was pretty consistently there. So I said, hey, client, don't know if you're open to this. Might be worth getting some imaging inside your body because the sensation has not changed for the last 6 months. Might be worth getting a bit more information. Guess what was going on? She had a labral tear, right? So structural difference in the front of that joint system, which means that since there's a structural difference, the material, especially for a labral tear, without some intervention, it's not really going to get better. It can heal up and the fraying will be a little less sensitive, but it's not going anywhere. So that turned to this incredible conversation of, hey, listen, I know you love teaching yoga. Yoga is an incredible thing. Can you help me out? Can you make a list of all the yoga positions you do where you feel this thing? And what do we get to do from there? We had this list of downward dog and everything, and we got to blow it up and go, okay, let's have a look at those movements and come up with some new options for those movements. For me, I got to teach this client a little bit more about her individual mechanics because we had some mechanical data that helped us to avoid her feeling discomfort. Second, she was a health professional like me, and she learned more about positions that her hip could go through. So when she was teaching yoga, if someone had the same problem that was experiencing, she could show them some solutions and actually help them continue to do yoga without feeling discomfort, arthritis, labral tear, whatever it may be. So these amazing lessons that we can get from feeling discomforts in our body and learning about how that correlates with specific sensations. I honestly, like I said, I love it.
Looking at pain as a data point is, I think, one of the best things that you can do for yourself and your body. Ignoring pain and hope it's going to go away, probably not the best avenue. Sometimes it does. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you feel like a little knee discomfort or hip discomfort or back discomfort after a workout, and it resolves itself after a couple of days. Okay, doesn't come back, fine, great. If you're feeling some kind of discomfort and it's not going away, that's a piece of information, and it's just your body telling you got to start doing something differently, or you got to pay attention to this. And I think what Brett and I are both saying right now is the no pain, no gain mentality, no bueno to follow if it means pushing yourself through physical discomfort. If something's not going well, you got to find some kind of mechanic, quote unquote mechanic, to look under your hood and help you figure out what's going on. Just like how Brandon mentioned that he had this client and they were working together and she had a labral tear, you might have to see a couple different people to figure out what's going on. But the long-term ramifications of leaving something unchecked, like a check engine light, means that you might blow a piece of that car that just never going to repair itself again. Likewise, you might injure a part of your body that unless you do something serious about it, it might never go back to the way it was before. And that sucks, especially for quality of life, especially if you're younger. Because if you're feeling discomfort now, I can promise you, if it's a serious injury, it's not going to go away on its own. You got to start doing something different.
There was this crazy thing that I remember listening to, and I want to say it was a Joe Rogan podcast with someone who was an active aging specialist, anti-aging specialist. And I believe, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it was basically like activity-based senescence. Right. So senescence is the biological process of aging, in which, if you've heard us talk about this before, up to the age of 25 or 30, your body is rapidly developing, reproducing, and doubling cells mostly. And then when you get to 30, that process slows down and stops. And the regenerative properties, new cells, all that starts to go down. We start losing hair. We start changing composition. Our metabolism slows down, so on and so forth. We know about this process. And we do know already that exercising strategically without causing problems, one of the most amazing things you can do for that. However, there was this reference to like gladiators and high performing athletes, in which they literally, all of these people do is they perform for their job. And your body is remarkable. I mean, if you ask it to do a ton of things, like the story of Marathon, right? I mean, I heard this, I don't know if this is true or not, but there was this character in Greek times named Marathon who used to run from one city to the other and was a messenger. And then at one point, he just fell and died in between a very early age because he was just running so much that his body couldn't handle it. But his body was so good at adapting. These gladiators, these other athletes, they're so good at adapting that if you keep asking the body to do something, it will adapt to the point where it will let you achieve the task. But the question we would ask is, at what cost? At what cost? This is what, oh my gosh, what's it called when someone exercises too much and their muscles start breaking?
Overtraining.
Overtraining.
Rhombolysis or
yeah. Rhabdomyolysis.
Rhabdomyolysis,
right? This is the same thing, is that you can perform so high that your body actually runs out of energy and food and actually starts breaking down your muscular tissue to help you achieve that task. Like this is the thing, is that if you think of the continuum of pain and performance, right? Your brain and your body is a survival machine. And if you push it to that extreme level, you will perform at super levels compared to what your body can. But this is the Goldilocks zone. There has to be a middle ground in where your body can stay. Because if you do too much, you might do amazing right now and make some amazing records, but you might break down something sooner. The hockey player I work with, he has been with me for 6 years. I worked with a lot of younger hockey players, OHL and NHL guys way back in the day. It was fun. I only see this one guy still all the way through now. I've worked with him for 6 years. And he has told me over the time and time again that he wished he knew about his body, the stuff we've talked about now, when he was playing 25 years ago, because in reality, he accumulated so many injuries in his 20s, regardless of how much money he was making, so many injuries that now, at whatever age he is now, he's got 2 knee replacements, hip replacement, and so many other countless surgeries. And he's a young, healthy guy. So what did he do? He pushed so hard that he taught his body how to perform at a level that he needed to succeed, but sacrificed a lot. So the question we would ask you, if you're listening to this episode, right? No pain, no gain. Listen, you can go for gold, go for glory. But unlike investing into money, into business, and all these other things that don't influence your body health, doing it with exercise, sure, you can grow a ton of muscle if you do CrossFit every single day. What's going to happen to your joints? It's going to happen to your nervous system. Is there any way you could dose it more strategically so you can continue doing those classes for your entire life?
Training smart is not sexy, at least not yet.
No, I disagree. Training smart absolutely is a very attractive thing. The thing is that it's going to be limited because there are some communities. No, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. It's Strive machines. Glenn just posted this awesome video of him doing the Strive press. That is a very attractive machine with an attractive fella. But there are some other forms of attractive exercise that look really cool and amazing. And I understand why you might want to do them. But some of them might be dangerous. And if you're not progressing and you get too caught up in the competitive nature, that's where it gets tough.
Smart is the new sexy.
Hey, there we go.
I would love if someone wrote an 80s power ballad about just like doing the right things. You train within your limits, all that kind of stuff. Can you imagine? Welcome to the appropriate loading zone. Oh, Kenny Loggins. Make that happen, Kenny Loggins.
I think it would be not a hit, but I do think it would be a great song.
So, Brandon, I think the time has come. Everybody wants to know, the question that's on everyone's minds is, what is your pick of the week?
I got mine. You got yours?
I do have mine.
Cool. So as you guys know, if you listened to last week's episode, Fitness Pro Mentors is in full go mode, which is amazing. We're progressing, and I'm super excited about how things are going. As such, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of investing into efficiency within technology. Anything that will save me, I value my time, and I have a dollar amount of what I believe my time is worth. And anything I can do to help me save time, make my life easier, is absolutely a big part of that. So Glenn just dropped 6 inches.
I actually hit the.
So I invested into something called Stream Deck, which integrates into my Zoom and my Ecamm Live and allows me to switch from scenes and add text and modify and record things within my programs I used for Fitness Pro mentors and my study groups really, really easily. So I would certainly recommend checking it out. They have pricing options from $100 all the way up to $300 for how many different options that you want. I got the middle entry one that has 16 buttons, and it's fantastic. If you just want to speed up your workflow on your computer, you just want to open your email faster, or you're using software for streaming and you want to switch between scenes, interviews, and recording people, I highly recommend you check out Stream Deck. It is so awesome. Absolutely worth it.
I love your pick of the week. I love efficiency. And every time Brendan tells me something about technology, I always want to go look at it right away. My pick of the week, Brendan, is Wyze, W-Y-Z-E. They make these tiny little cameras. And we bought a pair so we could take care of our little puppy when we're not home. I say little puppy, but she's like a year and a little bit. Little Luna Moonfang is what we call her. She's a glorious little puppy, but she is rambunctious, extremely food motivated. You can't leave anything on the counters. And so what we did is we invested, I think maybe $70 in a pair of these little cameras. They're very easy to set up and take down. It took us maybe a minute to get everything registered and set them up every time we go. But it's great because we can look at our little puppy whenever we need to make sure she's okay. She, for the most part, is. Once in a while, she gets into stuff she shouldn't. She's rambunctious, that one. But I can't recommend these little cameras enough. I think they're also probably really great for home security. If you want to have them on inside your house when you're not home. I know some security systems can be extremely pricey, but for the price of $70, you can at least have cameras on at home to see who's coming and going, egressing and ingressing in your household. So my pick of the week, Wyze security cameras, W-Y-Z-E. You can find them on Amazon. They're a pretty cool company. Very streamlined. I love it.
Cool. Glenn, thanks so much, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yes. And if you like this podcast, please find some more of them to watch on YouTube or listen to them on iTunes, Spotify, and Podbean. We also have an amazing brick and mortar facility in Newmarket, Ontario, just north of Davis Drive on Leslie. So much cool equipment, like Brandon said. We got Strive machines. They don't even make these anymore. Coolest cams in the world. You have to come by and check them out on your own, though.
Hey, everyone. And listen, if you're a personal trainer and you really want to blow up your practice and you really want to see some amazing changes there, if you follow me on Instagram, brandon.green.fitnesspro, I would just send me a quick message and I want you to send me success, and I will send you a free ebook on the 7 success secrets to help you blow up your practice right away. So if you want that ebook, please send me a message. But everyone, we want you exercising pain-free. We want you to have the careers you deserve. Thanks so much for listening.
Have a lovely day, everyone.